think this would look so good like in a floral quilted pattern. I'm gonna make so many tote bags because I have so many ideas. Hey, I'm Courtney from Rooney Sewing Patterns. Today I'm going to show you how to make a tote bag. I've made this before and shared it on Instagram, and today I'm going to just go into more detail and show you this easy tote bag. I love that it's oversized, and the one that I'm showing you today is reversible and it's also quilted. So there's so many different avenues you can go down, different fabrics you can use, and so many different ideas. And for my next one, I actually want to make like a Sherpa tote bag, and that's the same thing that I made this teddy bear out of. So what I did was I used corduroy and I quilted it. So I'll link the fabric that I used here. I found it on Etsy. I love shopping there for fabric, and I actually have a video walking through how I look for fabric, so I'll share that too. And yeah, so I'm just gonna walk through the entire process. This is great for a beginner. If you've never sewn anything before, I think this is a great place to start. The main thing I always tell people is to just start and pick a project that speaks to you, that you're gonna be excited about, that you want to see through to the end. So I think this is a great one that you can start with. So the first tote bag I made was this darker corduroy. I love this fabric. I got it at Hobby Lobby. So it's like this burnt orange color, and I think it's really beautiful. And back when I made it, I didn't have the idea for quilting it. So I actually wish I would have quilted this one. I think it would have turned out so well quilted, but I've used it so much since I've made it. And yeah, it's just oversized. This one is not lined, but it still works. It just shows you don't have to line it. So whatever option you choose, just make sure you're using like a thicker fabric. If you aren't lining it, the thickness of the fabric will help give it shape. But at the end of the day, I didn't really care for this to have shape because I put in a organizer in it sometimes. It's also great without an organizer. So the one we're gonna make today is this quilted tote. I just did horizontal stitching, and that I think went really well with the corduroy that is vertical. And then I lined it with this awesome like distressed, it's like a thick cotton. It's actually in the section where you buy like home decor fabric, so it does have a nice weight to it. And I've seen it a lot and I wanted to use it, but I didn't know what to use it for. But now I used it for a bag, and I think it turned out so perfectly. So you can turn the bag right side out or the other side, and it's a great reversible tote bag. The materials you'll need for this project are an outer layer of fabric of your choice, an inner layer which would be a wool or cotton batting, and an inner layer that will also be the outer layer when it is reversed. You'll want some safety pins, straight pins, and some twill tape to reinforce the straps. You'll begin by cutting the 3 layers into a rectangle. I'll add the measurements I used on the screen. You can make this as big or as small as you like. I like the size that I ended up with. It's just the right size for me. After I cut out all my layers, I laid out my layers that I wanted to quilt together, and I was just going to quilt the outer corduroy and the batting because I tested this out on both fabrics and I liked the texture that the corduroy had after it was quilted. So first I laid the First, I laid out the corduroy rectangle that I cut and then added the batting on top. I laid the right side facing down on the table, and then the batting was on top of the corduroy. Next, you'll just make sure everything is lined up and smoothed out, and then you'll go in with your long ruler, and every 2 inches I drew a line with a pin. You could use a water-soluble pin or something that would wash away. After I made all of the lines, these were the lines that I was going to follow to add the quilting, and I did this on the batting because the batting was a thicker material than the corduroy, and I knew that my machine would receive the batting better and kind of glide a little smoother over the batting than the corduroy. So I drew the lines on top, and then I pinned everything together with safety pins to make sure nothing shifted around when I was sewing the lines. Then I slowly went line by line and quilted the layers together, and this took a little bit of time, but it's definitely an enjoyable process and it's worth it in the end for that extra texture. After I quilted everything, I folded my pieces together, and at the fold on the bottom, I cut out a square that measured 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and I just removed this from both corners of the bag. Then I sewed from the corner of this square that I just cut out to the top of the bag, creating the side seam. Then I kind of maneuvered the bag and flattened out the bottom of the bag to make a flat seam that I could sew across at 1/2 inch seam allowance. This would make the bottom of the bag. This might take a little bit of time to get it flat and to fold into place, but it should be flat enough to sew across really smoothly. You're going to repeat this same process of cutting the square from the bottom of the tote and sewing the side seams together. You're going to repeat this for the inside layer of the bag. After everything was sewn, I trimmed up the seam allowance that I had on the bags to make sure there wasn't extra bulk. Next, you're going to line up the tote bag shapes that you have right sides together and pin it in place at the seams, and you're going to sandwich the straps in between the 2 layers, and this is going to secure the straps in place. And you can measure 4 inches in from the side of the bag, and this is a great width for just an arm strap. This is right sides facing together at 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you're going to sew all the way around the bag until you reach about a 3 to 4 inch opening. You want to have this open so that you can turn the bag right side out and finish it off later. To create the bag straps, I used a twill tape for some reinforcing, and I used the corduroy fabric to wrap around the tape. So what I did was, according to my tape, it was 1 inch wide, so I cut a piece of corduroy that was 2 inches wide to give me enough room to fold it over. So I folded it over the strap, and to make it a little easier to maneuver, I first sewed the corduroy to the bag strap along the middle, and then I wrapped it around the twill tape again, folding in the side and then adding one more seam. When you sandwich in your straps between the layers, just make sure that the straps are going the correct direction. When I reached the straps, when I was sewing it in place, I went over the straps a few times with a backwards stitch, and then I also left 1/2 inch of the strap sticking out to just make sure there was enough room for that stitch to be secure. You're going to turn your bag right side out, and this might take a little bit depending on how big you made this opening. And once it's turned right side out, you're going to fold the layers in towards one another, line everything up, and then do a top stitch seam around the top of the bag. You can do this all the way around the bag, or you can do a top stitch over the opening. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you make this tote bag. You can tag me on Instagram or leave a comment here. I would love to see it. Like I said earlier, I think there are so many fabric choices you can make with this. I'm gonna link a blog post below with just some ideas on fabrics, because there's so many tote bags that I want to make now after making this quilted one. So I love that this is now reversible, so you can make it in multiple fabrics and have a very versatile tote bag. So enjoy your day, enjoy sewing. I'll see you later.